First on the list is Elden Ring, the open-world action RPG from Software that shattered commercial expectations upon its release and became one of the fastest-selling and highest-rated games in the history of the medium. Players explore the lands between, a vast and interconnected world filled with ruins, underground kingdoms, and towering legacy dungeons, each hiding powerful bosses and rich environmental storytelling. The freedom of the open world allows players to approach progression in any order, discovering new areas and challenges through curiosity rather than linear direction. Combat demands patience, precision, and adaptability, rewarding players who study enemy patterns and invest in understanding their character build strengths. The Elden Ring lore, co-created with fantasy author George R.R. Martin, is dense and layered, told through item descriptions and cryptic dialogue rather than direct narration. The Shadow of the Erdtree expansion adds an entirely new region of extraordinary scope. On Nintendo Switch 2, Elden Ring brings the full weight of this landmark title to portable players in remarkable form. Second is Red Dead Redemption 2 from Rockstar Games, one of the greatest narrative achievements in gaming history and one of the best-selling titles of the past decade, now experiencing a significant new wave of players through Nintendo Switch 2. Players inhabit Arthur Morgan, an outlaw in the dying American frontier, navigating loyalty, mortality, and the inevitable collapse of the gang he calls family. The world is extraordinary in its detail, from the behavior of individual animals to the daily routines of every town's population, creating a living environment unlike any other open-world game. Side stories and stranger encounters are written with the same care as the main narrative, making exploration consistently rewarding beyond just the critical path. The hunting, fishing, gambling, and campfire conversations all contribute to a sense of genuine immersion that few games have ever matched. On Switch 2, this massive technical achievement runs in portable form as one of the most impressive demonstrations of the hardware's capability and one of the most essential experiences available on the platform. Third is Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red, the open-world RPG set in the sprawling megalopolis of Night City that became one of the most commercially successful games ever released, despite its turbulent launch, ultimately delivering one of the richest and most immersive urban game worlds ever constructed. Players build and inhabit V, a mercenary navigating Night City's dangerous criminal underworld in a story about identity, survival, and the blurred line between humanity and technology. The cybernetic augmentation system creates enormous build variety, allowing players to specialize as hackers who manipulate enemies from a distance, close-range brawlers with enhanced reflexes, or stealth operatives using optical camouflage. The Phantom Liberty expansion added a full narrative chapter of exceptional quality. Night City rewards exploration at every turn, with district-specific atmospheres and density that make every neighborhood feel distinctly realized. On Nintendo Switch 2, bringing this visual and technical landmark to portable play represents one of the most remarkable porting achievements available on the platform. Fourth is Baldurs Gate 3 from Larian Studios, the role-playing masterpiece that became one of the best-selling and highest-rated games ever released, sweeping virtually every major award in the year of its launch and establishing a new benchmark for what role-playing games can achieve. Players create a custom character or select from detailed origin heroes and journey through a massive fantasy world where every meaningful decision branches the story in genuinely different directions. The turn-based tactical combat rewards creative environmental interaction, with elemental combinations, height advantages, and object manipulation all part of the strategic toolkit. Companion characters are written with extraordinary depth and personal questlines that develop naturally across the full campaign. The game supports full cooperative play for up to 4 participants through the entire story. The sheer density of content, with secrets, alternative solutions, and hidden outcomes layered throughout every area, makes replaying fundamentally different each time. On Nintendo Switch 2, Baldurs Gate 3 is one of the deepest and most content-rich experiences available on the platform. Fifth on the list is Grand Theft Auto 5 from Rockstar Games, one of the best-selling entertainment products in all of human history, and a game that has sustained a massive active player base for well over a decade through continuous online content updates. The single-player campaign follows 3 protagonists whose intersecting criminal lives in the sprawling city of Los Santos create one of gaming's most cinematic and character-driven narratives. Switching between characters at will during the open world provides constantly shifting perspectives on the same events and locations. Grand Theft Auto Online continues to receive major content expansions that add new heists, businesses, vehicles, and storylines. The world of Los Santos is extraordinary in its density and satirical detail, with radio stations, television programs, and street-level activity that make the city feel like a genuine living system. On Nintendo Switch 2, this generational classic reaches a new audience and provides returning players the definitive portable version of one of the most important games ever made. At 6, Minecraft from Mojang Studios is the best-selling video game of all time across all platforms combined, and its arrival on Nintendo Switch 2 gives the new generation of the hardware access to the limitless sandbox creative experience that has captivated hundreds of millions of players worldwide across more than 15 years. The game plays players in a procedurally generated world of blocks and challenges them to gather resources, craft tools, build structures, and survive nights filled with hostile creatures, with no prescribed objectives beyond what each player sets for themselves. Creative mode removes survival constraints entirely, giving players unlimited resources to build anything imaginable. The consistent flow of major updates over the years has added biomes, mobs, dimensions, and mechanics that keep the game perpetually fresh. Multiplayer supports cooperative and competitive play across shared worlds. Education and creative communities have grown enormously around the game. On Nintendo Switch 2, Minecraft is the most accessible and endlessly replayable experience available on the platform for players of every age and background. 7th is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition from CD Projekt Red, the massive open-world RPG that redefined quality expectations for the genre upon its release, and has continued to sell in extraordinary numbers years later, cementing its reputation as one of the greatest games ever made. Players control Geralt of Rivia, a professional monster hunter searching for his adopted daughter across a war-torn world of morally complex characters and richly detailed regional cultures. The quest design is the game's most celebrated achievement, with side missions that frequently surpass the ambition and emotional weight of most games' main narratives. The Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine expansions are each substantial additions that rank among the best DLC content ever produced for any game. The Complete Edition includes every piece of released content, representing hundreds of hours of premium role-playing. On Nintendo Switch 2, The Witcher 3 in portable form is an extraordinary technical achievement that gives handheld players the full scope of one of gaming's definitive open-world experiences. 8th is Monster Hunter Wilds from Capcom, the latest entry in the franchise that has grown from a cult favorite into one of the best-selling game series in the world, with Wilds representing the most ambitious and commercially successful entry in the franchise's history. Players track and hunt massive creatures across a dynamic ecosystem that shifts with weather cycles and seasonal changes, creating encounters that feel genuinely emergent rather than scripted. The 14 weapon types each offer a completely distinct combat experience, with mastery of any single weapon demanding dozens of hours of dedicated practice. Hunting with up to 4 players cooperatively amplifies the strategic possibilities and the shared drama of bringing down particularly challenging targets. Gear crafting from monster materials drives a deeply satisfying progression loop that constantly provides new goals. The world design and creature ecology set a new standard for environmental storytelling in action games. On Nintendo Switch 2, Monster Hunter Wilds delivers the full breadth of this landmark franchise entry to portable players for the first time. At 9, God of War Ragnarok from Santa Monica Studio is the acclaimed action-adventure sequel that continued one of gaming's most celebrated narrative arcs and became one of the best-selling PlayStation titles ever released, now reaching Nintendo Switch 2 players through an exceptional port. Kratos and his son Atreus journey through the 9 realms of Norse mythology in a story about fatherhood, destiny, and the possibility of breaking cycles of violence that have defined generations. The combat system builds on its predecessor, with additional weapon options, companion abilities, and enemy variety that create a richer and more demanding combat experience throughout. Exploration rewards thorough players with hidden lore, powerful equipment, and optional boss encounters that rank among the best in the genre. The production values are extraordinary, with performance capture, cinematography, and score delivery that rival prestige television. Each realm visited has a distinct visual identity and cultural atmosphere. On Nintendo Switch 2, God of War Ragnarok is one of the most cinematic and emotionally substantial experiences available on the platform. 10th is Hogwarts Legacy from Avalanche Software, the action RPG set in the Wizarding world that became one of the best-selling games of its release year by delivering the open-world Hogwarts experience that fans of the franchise had imagined for decades. Players create a student who arrives at Hogwarts with an unusual connection to ancient magic and gradually uncovers a conspiracy threatening the Wizarding world. The Hogwarts castle itself is the game's greatest achievement, rendered with extraordinary detail and packed with hidden rooms, interactive paintings, and secrets that reward thorough exploration across dozens of hours. Combat uses a combination of spells that chain into combinations and environmental manipulation, creating a satisfying magical combat system. The open world beyond Hogwarts covers Hogsmeade, surrounding countryside, and numerous dungeons and caves to explore. On Nintendo Switch 2, Hogwarts Legacy gives portable players the complete experience of one of the most commercially successful and fan-pleasing adaptations of the beloved franchise in any medium, accessible anywhere at full quality. 11th is Black Myth Wukong from Game Science, the action RPG based on the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West that sold tens of millions of copies within weeks of release, becoming one of the fastest-selling games in history and the most commercially successful title ever developed by a Chinese studio. Players control the Destined One through a mythological journey retelling the story of Sun Wukong through encounters with demons, gods, and transformed spirits drawn from Chinese folklore and religious tradition. The transformation system allows players to temporarily assume the forms of defeated enemies, using their unique movesets and abilities in subsequent encounters. Boss design is a series highlight, with each encounter crafted as a distinct artistic and mechanical achievement. The environmental variety spans bamboo forests, ancient temples, snowbound mountain passes, and volcanic landscapes, each rendered with extraordinary visual fidelity. On Nintendo Switch 2, Black Myth Wukong delivers this visually spectacular and culturally rich action RPG to portable players for the first time in remarkable technical form. 12th is Stardew Valley from ConcernedApe, the farming and community simulation game that has quietly become one of the best-selling indie games in history, with sales that have continued growing for years after its initial release, driven entirely by word of mouth and genuine quality. Players inherit a neglected farm and gradually restore it across seasons while building relationships with the residents of Pelican Town, exploring a mine for resources and adventure, and pursuing personal creative goals within the game's generous freedom. The lack of fail states and the absence of time pressure makes Stardew Valley uniquely accessible, welcoming players who want to engage at their own pace entirely. Multiplayer supports cooperative farming for up to 4 players. Character relationships develop through gift-giving and conversation, with personal backstories that give each resident genuine depth. Continuous updates from the solo developer have added significant new content over the years. On Nintendo Switch 2, Stardew Valley is one of the most perfectly suited games to portable play, ideal for both brief and extended sessions equally. At 13, Hollow Knight Silksong from Team Cherry is one of the most anticipated indie releases in gaming history, with the original Hollow Knight having sold millions of copies and built one of the most passionate fan communities in the independent game space. Silksong follows Hornet as the new protagonist through a vast interconnected kingdom filled with new mechanics, enemies, and mysteries that build on and depart from the original in exciting ways. The needle-based combat creates a distinct identity from Hollow Knight's nail-focused fighting, with faster and more mobile engagement that suits Hornet's character. Biome design is extensive, with environments ranging from overgrown ruins to mechanical dungeons and atmospheric underground forests. The difficulty is demanding but fair, with boss encounters that deliver the intense and satisfying challenge the series is celebrated for. A quest tracking system adds structured objectives to the exploration without imposing rigid direction. On Nintendo Switch 2, Silksong arrives as one of the most commercially anticipated and critically discussed titles available on the platform. 14th is Hades 2 from Supergiant Games, the sequel to the roguelite masterpiece that received widespread critical acclaim and sold millions of copies by redefining what the genre could accomplish in terms of narrative integration and production quality. Melano, daughter of Hades, fights through the underworld on a mission against the Titan Kronos in a story that unfolds gradually through repeated runs in the series' signature style. The combat is faster and more diverse than the original, with expanded weapon options and a wider selection of Olympian boon combinations, creating an extraordinary variety of viable build paths. New biomes expand the underworld significantly, with distinct visual atmospheres and enemy types that keep the environment fresh across many hours of play. The quality of the art, music, voice acting, and writing maintains the exceptional production standards Supergiant established in the original. On Nintendo Switch 2, Hades 2 is one of the most compelling and replayable roguelite experiences available on the platform, and a natural successor to one of gaming's most celebrated indie titles. At 15, It Takes Two from Hazelight Studios won the Game of the Year at multiple major ceremonies and became one of the most commercially successful cooperative games ever released, driven by its extraordinary creativity and the pure joy it delivers to every pair of players who experience it together. The adventure follows a couple transformed into dolls who must cooperate through dozens of wildly different gameplay scenarios to find their way back to their human forms. Each chapter introduces a completely new mechanic that is then explored and discarded before the next chapter presents something entirely different, ensuring the experience never repeats itself across its full runtime. The emotional story handles themes of relationship strain and reconnection with surprising maturity alongside the playful gameplay scenarios. On Nintendo Switch 2, It Takes Two allows pairs to experience this remarkable cooperative adventure in both local and portable configurations, making it one of the most accessible and rewarding two-player experiences available on the platform for friends, partners, and family members to share together. 16th is Resident Evil Village from Capcom, the 8th mainline entry in the legendary survival horror franchise that sold in extraordinary numbers by delivering one of the most visually spectacular and tense horror experiences in recent gaming history. Players control Ethan Winters in a mysterious European village filled with grotesque enemies and 4 distinctive lords, each commanding their own region and enemy type. Lady Dimitrescu and her castle became a cultural phenomenon immediately upon the game's reveal, but the full experience demonstrates consistent creativity across all 4 lords' domains, from the haunting halls of the castle to the disturbing depths of the factory and the nightmare logic of the House of Beasts. The combat is tighter and more action-focused than some franchise entries, while maintaining genuine survival tension through resource management. The Shadows of Rose expansion adds a new chapter to the story. On Nintendo Switch 2, Resident Evil Village brings one of the generation's most commercially successful horror games to portable players in a technically impressive and fully featured package. At 17, Death Stranding Director's Cut from Kojima Productions is the definitive version of Hideo Kojima's unconventional open-world delivery game that divided opinion on release, but has since grown a deeply devoted audience who consider it one of the most original and emotionally resonant games ever made. Players guide Sam Porter Bridges across a shattered and haunted post-apocalyptic America, reconnecting isolated communities through a delivery network while navigating terrain, conserving stamina and cargo, and managing encounters with dangerous supernatural entities called Beached Things. The game's primary innovation is its asynchronous multiplayer, where structures built and items left by other players appear in your world, creating a cooperative experience built around helping strangers without ever directly interacting. The story, told through extended and elaborately produced cutscenes, explores themes of connection, death, and rebuilding civilization with genuine philosophical ambition. On Nintendo Switch 2, Death Stranding Director's Cut provides portable players the full Director's Cut content in one of the most distinctive and memorable gaming experiences available on the platform. 18th is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice from Software, the action game that won multiple Game of the Year awards upon release by delivering the studio's most mechanically focused and narratively direct experience yet, set in a fictionalized version of late Sengoku period Japan. Players control the shinobi wolf on a mission of vengeance and protection in a world of samurai, supernatural creatures, and ancient divine forces. The combat is built almost entirely around a posture-breaking mechanic that demands aggressive engagement, precise deflection timing, and reading the rhythm of each enemy encounter, rather than cautious defensive play. The prosthetic tool system adds a layer of strategic preparation, with different attachments offering options against specific enemy types and environmental challenges. The vertical traversal enabled by the grappling hook creates a sense of three-dimensional combat space unique among action games. Boss encounters in Sekiro are among the most demanding and simultaneously most satisfying in From Software's catalog. On Nintendo Switch 2, this essential action game finds a natural home in portable form for a new generation of players. 19th is Disco Elysium: The Final Cut from Za, one of the most critically acclaimed games of the past decade and a landmark of literary game design that has built a devoted global following through the depth and originality of its writing and its complete rejection of conventional game design assumptions. Players inhabit a deeply troubled detective, reconstructing his own shattered identity while investigating a murder in the decaying harbor city of Ravishal, resolving every challenge through skill checks drawn from 24 attributes representing different aspects of thought and personality, rather than through any traditional combat. The prose quality is genuinely literary, exploring politics, philosophy, addiction, failure, and idealism with sophistication and dark humor rarely attempted in any medium. The full voiceover update added professional voice acting to the entire script, making the already extraordinary writing even more immersive. On Nintendo Switch 2, Disco Elysium is one of the most intellectually ambitious and genuinely adult experiences available on the platform, offering something no other game on the hardware attempts. At 20, Cuphead from Studio MDHR is one of the best-selling indie games ever made, fueled by its extraordinary hand-drawn 1930s cartoon animation style and the word-of-mouth reputation of its demanding and spectacularly creative boss encounters. Every boss is a unique artistic achievement, with visual themes and attack patterns that demonstrate an exceptional level of creative investment in every individual encounter across the entire game. The difficulty is intentionally high and consistently fair, designed to reward persistence and skill improvement rather than punishing players arbitrarily. The delicious Last Course expansion added a full new island of content with new bosses and a new playable character. The two-player cooperative mode allows friends to tackle the challenge together as Cuphead and Mugman. On Nintendo Switch 2, the game's hand-drawn animation displays an extraordinary detail in both docked and handheld configurations, making it one of the most visually striking experiences available on the platform. Cuphead demonstrates the enduring commercial and artistic power of exceptional independent game development. 21 is Celeste from Maddie Makes Games, the precision platformer that has sold millions of copies and maintained a passionate community through the combination of its exceptionally designed gameplay and its honest and moving story about mental health, self-acceptance, and the challenge of continuing when everything feels overwhelming. Players guide Madeline up a treacherous mountain through hundreds of handcrafted screens, each introducing and exploring a specific mechanic before expanding and combining ideas with admirable consistency and creativity. The story handled anxiety and self-criticism with genuine sensitivity at a time when few games attempted such emotional honesty, earning the game a cultural significance beyond its gameplay. The difficulty is genuinely demanding, but always fair, with quick restarts keeping momentum through every failure. The B-side and C-side chapters add extremely challenging content for players who want to push their skills further. On Nintendo Switch 2, Celeste is one of the most perfectly suited experiences to the portable format, delivering a complete and deeply meaningful gaming experience in a package ideal for the platform. At 22, Ori and the Will of the Wisps from Moon Studios is the visually extraordinary platformer sequel that exceeded commercial expectations upon release and has continued building its audience through its reputation as one of the most beautiful games ever made. The movement system is the game's most celebrated achievement, with abilities that combine into a fluid and expressive traversal experience that makes navigating even simple areas feel genuinely joyful. Escape sequences serve as the game's most thrilling set pieces, demanding mastery of the movement toolkit under time pressure and delivering the game's most spectacular moments. The emotional narrative builds on the original through Ori's relationships with the world's inhabitants, delivering impact through visual storytelling and score, rather than extensive dialogue. The hand-painted art direction creates environments that look like interactive paintings at every moment, with lighting and particle effects that push the visual quality far beyond most comparable titles. On Nintendo Switch 2, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is among the most visually stunning and emotionally resonant experiences available on the platform. 23 is Outer Wilds from Mobius Digital, the open-world exploration mystery game that has quietly sold millions of copies through one of gaming's most reliable word-of-mouth recommendation cycles, with virtually everyone who discovers it urging others to experience it completely fresh, without spoilers. Players explore a handcrafted solar system using a physics-accurate spacecraft while investigating the ruins of an ancient alien civilization and the mystery of a sun that explodes every 22 minutes, resetting time and returning the player to the beginning of the loop, with only their accumulated knowledge persisting. There is no combat, no traditional progression, and no waypoints. Discovery and understanding are the only progression, and the revelations that recontextualize previously visited locations create some of the most satisfying moments in gaming. The Echoes of the Eye expansion adds a distinct new chapter to the central mystery. On Nintendo Switch 2, Outer Wilds is one of the most intellectually rewarding and uniquely affecting experiences the platform offers, demanding nothing from players but curiosity. At 24, Divinity Original Sin 2 from Larian Studios is the tactical RPG that redefined the genre and became one of the best-selling and highest-rating role-playing games ever made by demonstrating a level of systemic depth and player freedom that set a new standard for what the genre could accomplish. Players build a party from a diverse selection of origin characters or fully custom creations and navigate a richly realized fantasy world where nearly every problem has multiple creative solutions rooted in the game's interlocking elemental and status effect systems. The cooperative multiplayer allows up to 4 players to experience the entire campaign together, with each controlling their own character and making independent decisions. Writing quality and world building are exceptional, with quests that consistently surprise through subverted expectations and moral complexity. The Game Master mode adds a creative toolset for constructing custom campaigns. On Nintendo Switch 2, Divinity Original Sin 2 delivers one of the deepest and most replayable role-playing experiences available on any portable platform, in a package that will occupy dedicated players for hundreds of hours. Closing the list at 25, Slay the Spire 2 from Megacrit is the sequel to one of the most influential and best-selling indie games ever made, refining and expanding the card-building roguelite formula that spawned an entire subgenre of imitators, while delivering improvements that justify the numbered sequel designation across every dimension. Players select from a roster of characters, each built around a distinct card set and strategic identity, then construct and refine their deck through choices made after battles and at branching path junctions that shape each run into something unique. This synergy system rewards players who recognize how cards interact, with combinations that create powerful and unexpected results, defining the character of successful attempts. Boss encounters scale in complexity, demanding increasingly sophisticated deck management across the later stages of each run. The depth of strategic possibility is extraordinary for a game of its surface simplicity. On Nintendo Switch 2, Slay the Spire 2 is one of the most perfectly matched games to the portable format, delivering endlessly replayable strategic content ideal for sessions of any length.